All right. Hello, everyone. This is Henny Espinosa with Just Wish Foundation. I'm so delighted today that we are joined by Paula and Rosie from Chicago, who co-founded the nonprofit group Coming Up Rosies in the hopes of helping children who look like Rosie. And they are here today to tell us about Rosie's condition and what was the inspiration and what moved them to create this nonprofit group to help other children in need and also families in need. So welcome, Paula and Rosie. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So Paula, let's start with you. Take us back to when Rosie was 2.5 years old, when you started noticing something different about her hair.
Yes, well, it just happened to coincide with me going back to work after a very lengthy maternity leave at Google. I had to leave for 6 months, and Rosie had a tough time. Like, she didn't want me leaving the house. She was crying, clutching my leg as I left the door to go to work. And one evening, I just noticed there was a little dime-shaped spot on top of her head. And at the time, she would suck her thumb and twirl her hair. So that was her thing, to soothe herself. And I remember asking her, I was out of the bath and I was brushing her hair. I was trying to be very nonchalant about it. But I said, Rosie, are you pulling out your hair? And she's 2.5. She's like, no, I'm not pulling out my hair. Well, the week went on and the loss went from a dime to the size of a cantaloupe. And it was very alarming, because it's just, we'd wake up in the morning and her curls would be on her pillow. And I didn't know, I knew something was wrong. Call the pediatrician. Finally, I see him and her hair is 75% gone. By the time I called and got in 2 days later, and I literally thought it was stress. And I'll never forget this. Dr. D walks in the door and he takes one look at Rose and he's like, oh, this is not stress. This is alopecia. And I said, oh my gosh, I don't know. I've never heard of this. And so he's like, I know you work at Google. Don't Google it. Just don't go home. You're going to see just really interesting things that might upset you, but it's not life threatening, but I'm going to send you to the dermatologist, the top one in Chicago. So of course went home and Googled it. And I saw all of these different cases. Some were bald, some were patchy. And it's, reading, I went into a rabbit hole, but my initial thought was, thank goodness we know what it is. I was a little worried, what if she was pulling it out? The psychosis behind that. I was like, oh God, I'm glad that there was a medical reason for this rapid hair loss. But then the second part of me felt like I was mourning a loss of, my mind went down to is she going to be made fun of? Is she going to get married? Is she going to date? All these things. Is she going to be discriminated in the workplace if she's bald? My mind went a million miles a minute, knowing because there is no cure for this disease. So I was like, we're just going to have to embrace this. So initially I was a little, flustered and nervous and paranoid and scared. But also happy that she's healthy and she's going to live a healthy, long, normal life. She just might look a little different. So yeah. That was my first thoughts.
Rosie, tell us, for people that don't know, tell us what alopecia is.
So basically, for people who don't know what alopecia is, alopecia is an autoimmune disease that makes your hair fall out. But in more simple terms, so if you're allergic to something, let's say peanuts, if you're allergic to peanuts, you have to stay away from peanut butter, peanuts, you have to stay away from that. Basically, my body is allergic to my hair. So my body's reaction of being allergic to my hair is having it fall out. But I'm totally healthy. It doesn't lead up to anything. It's not life-threatening either. I just don't have hair.
Look,
and I look different too. And a lot of people mistake it with something else, but I like to inform them that it's just alopecia and I'm fine.
So tell us, what was that like, Rosie, when and for you too, Paula, because this was when Rosie was 2.5 years old, and I understand there was a year that hats actually played a big role. When Rosie would go out, you would put a hat on her. Like, tell us what that first year was like in terms of adjusting and kind of shielding her or protecting her from unwanted stares.
So I can answer the first part, and then you can talk about when you start noticing. So 2.5, Rosie was very egocentric. She was not aware, to be honest. I mean, she like 3 weeks into like being totally bald, she's like, "Oh, Mom, where did my hair go?" Like it was, I was like, "Oh, now you're just noticing that you don't have it." But she just was not phased. And knowing how this disease can affect people socially, emotionally, my husband and I are so thankful that it happened when she was so young. Because she was just kind of unaware. Like it was to be honest, it was like November, December is when all the hair fell out, and it was cold in Chicago. And the second she was diagnosed, friends were sending hats and caps and this and that. And it was a struggle trying to keep them on, because the second we'd get into the grocery store, she would like take off the hat. And Rosie was always, I don't like anything on my head. I don't want like a hat. I don't want a wig. I don't want a scarf. Like she just was like, she loved being bald. And it was a little struggle in the middle of a cold winter for a 2-year-old to be running around the grocery store.
And now I do wear hats to keep my head warm. Because it's like -1.
Yeah. So it was a little bit of a, for me, and it wasn't that I wanted to hide it. I kind of was at peace. I was like, okay, you know what? If Rosie's not bothered by being bald, my husband and I were like, we are on Team Rosie. We're taking her lead on this. We're no secret, no shame. However, the times when I did feel insecure or bothered, when people would come up and say things, and I wasn't ready to like talk about Rosie's medical information and history with random strangers. So granted, some of the comments, and most of them were always like, "Oh, she's beautiful," and like really overcompensating for the fact that she was glaring bald. Like, "Oh, she's beautiful. You're a princess. You're gorgeous. Your smile is beautiful." And I was like, okay, thanks. It was the other comments like, "Why aren't you covering her up? Why isn't she wearing a wig? What kind of treatment is she doing? Why is she sick? Why?" Like, and I think I was a little shocked, because I would never go up to a stranger and be so obtrusive with my thoughts and like my opinions.
Also people assume stuff, and like that's not just giving people like advice. That's not really, that's the thing to do just in case, if you don't know,
just smile away. Like you don't have to go up and, so that was hard. But I realized shortly thereafter, like I can't control how people react. And I needed to realize some people felt like they wanted a connection to Rosie, and they wanted to feel a connection to me.
And some people would walk up, but some people would walk up to us and be like, "Oh, I'm a cancer survivor."
Yeah,
like,
and of course.
And those cases, I'm like, "Oh, very nice to meet you," because they're telling me their story, and I don't want to.
And they were bald at some point.
They were
usually
bald
in
at
that
some
point.
point, so we do have a connection, but
it's just like very different cases.
Yeah,
big difference.
It just was hard, like when people would say, "Oh, I like her haircut."
Yeah, I was like,
or like, "Why did
you
let her cut her hair?" And I was like, "I didn't let her cut her hair."
I know,
like,
even to this day, like people walk by me and they're like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Thanks."
But you know what? I think people are mostly well-meaning. However, so we just kind of dealt with it. We just kind of and to this day, people still come up and say things, and we just, we have maybe a thicker skin, or we're used to, we always respond with like, "Thank you so much for your concern." And very nice. And but when Rosie was 4, that's when you started to notice the pointing and staring. The pointing and staring was going around for day 1. Like people were, and today will always point and stare. Like it's not uncommon. But Rosie started to notice at 4, and I'll let you talk about what happened when you felt that way.
So when I was like 4 years old, I started noticing, I was like, "Oh, people are pointing and staring at me. Did I just get called a boy?" So like people called me boy. They would be like, "Why are you bald? Are you a baby?" And I was like, that doesn't really make me feel so good. So basically what happened was one day I started to get really sad, and my parents started to notice that I was noticing other people being weird towards me.
And what would you do? She would like literally come up and like hide behind me,
behind,
which was so out of character, because she's so friendly and
Yeah.
has always been very talkative. But when she started grabbing onto my leg and like kind of playing, mommy, why are they pointing at you?
Yeah. So basically that happened, and I was like, at the time, and I've always been secure about how I look, but back then I was like, that is weird. I don't totally love it because I don't point and stare at people like that.
Yeah.
So one day my mom was like, okay, I work with this really nice lady at Google, and she knows someone who prints state maps on like umbrellas and blankets and all that fun stuff.
But I only found this out after expressing my frustration with her. I'm like, Rosie is noticing her hair loss and she doesn't want a wig. She's tired of the hats. Like, I wish I could just take an artwork and put it on a headscarf. And the woman looks at me and she's like, oh my God, this is what my sister does. So she's like, let me connect you. And I gave Rosie, you can tell I gave her.
And Rosie, these are your artwork, right?
Yes. So basically what happened was my mom had a piece of my art printed on a headscarf. And after like 5 minutes of looking in the mirror, I said, I'm going to give this to all the bald children. And my mom had a full-time job at Google at the time. And she's like,
what's going to happen?
You are a corporate mom.
I was busy, but it was so interesting because I'm like, why do you want to give this to, I'm like, why? And remember what you said?
Yeah. I was like, because I felt confident and I want to give that to all the other bald children because I thought that it was the good thing to do.
So immediately that thought came to your head, Rosie.
Yes.
Wow.
And here I felt bad because I just wanted to make her smile. I wasn't thinking about.
She went above and beyond. She's like, no, I want to make other kids smile.
Yeah. She's like, Mom, I'm gonna one up you, and I want this for every single bald child, which I thought was.
Oh my
really
gosh, Rosie, that's so awesome.
For like 6 months.
6 months.
She
I kept asking and asking.
Or she would tell people, she's like, oh, she'd be wearing her headscarf, she'd be like, oh, I'm gonna have a charity. I'm gonna have a company for bald kids, and we're gonna do scarves. And I was like,
and then, like, all of a sudden, I was like, oh my goodness, this is. I need to keep asking Mom. So I kept asking and asking, and finally.
How old were you at this point, Rosie?
4.
4. So
wow. At that age, Paula, like kids at 4 years old would not even
no
think about.
At the time I was 39 and I wasn't thinking. So yeah, I have to recognize that Rosie is like we like to say, her and her sister are both old souls.
Yes, I can definitely feel that. I'm like, I'm getting goosebumps right now. They're telling me
old
that
soul.
At 4 years old, you have that thought. That's just so amazing. And so you finally relent, like you gave into her request.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, you were very.
How can you say no to such a cute face?
I know.
No, I'm kidding.
I couldn't say no, and you know what? It was one of those pivotal moments in your life. Like no one ever, if you had said you're gonna have a charity for bald kids, I'd be like, no, I'm not. Like I do HR. Like life does not go according to plan, and it wasn't until I would see how Rosie would light up when she would tell strangers, or when people would comment, wow, that is such a beautiful scarf. And the conversation shifted from the pointing and staring, the baldness to like something that was empowering and positive.
Which is to this day the goal of Coming Up Rosies and its headscarves, because it's trying to take away from you being different, and it's not trying to take away, but it's trying to bring out your difference in a positive way. With
celebrating you.
Celebrating.
Yes. And I've noticed that even to this day, sometimes the conversations I have don't always start out positive with people about my head, but I turn it around and I say, hi, my name is Rosie. I noticed that you may see I'm a little different. I have alopecia, and what makes you different? Because I want to ask people, I want to make people actually think and be like, oh, well, I have an allergy, or I have
eczema, I don't know, we all have a difference. And the funny thing is after, like, Rosie wore the headscarf for like a couple years, and then one day she said, you know what, Mom, I like being me. I like being bald, and I don't think I need the headscarf anymore. I'm comfortable, and when people ask me about it, like, I can tell them this is who I am. This is what I have. And she's like, but do we have to stop the charity? I'm like, no. She's like, I still want to make other kids happy and confident, and but just because I don't need to wear, I don't need to
Doesn't
wear
mean
anymore.
that others shouldn't.
And I
because-
felt
Yeah.
like my husband and I looked at each other. I was like, you know what, mission accomplished. Like the purpose of this was to make Rosie feel confident and amazing, and it worked for her. And now she can kind of help other people.
And
to
I
feel
felt fine being bald because a lot of people like walk up to me and like, well, not walk up to me, but they talk to me and like, oh, I know alopecia is such a burden sometimes, and it's not for some people. It can be. For me, it's a blessing, not a burden, because I feel alopecia is a blessing, and I want other people to feel that too. And I think that hopefully your headscarves will help that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sorry, why would you say that alopecia is a blessing for you, Rosie?
Alopecia is a blessing for me because it made me realize that not everyone is confident, and it helped me to make other kids smile. That is my motto: make someone smile, because then you feel accomplished and you feel like you did something so good, and it warms my heart to know that other kids are smiling who are different, and it's a-okay to be different, and I love being different.
And that's the beauty of, I think, the mission of what we do. We just want to celebrate differences, because everyone, like I said, has something. And we have found for our family that's worked for us, when we've talked about alopecia openly and educated people, then there's no more curiosity. There's, now I understand. And then you would be surprised when Rosie would always ask, like, well, what makes you stand out after these exchanges? And we would hear so many different things about children, and it just was nice that it's okay to be unique and different.
Yeah. So tell us that point in 2016 when you quit your corporate job, right, Paula? And then you focused on coming up Rosies. You guys became a nonprofit group, and this sort of really became like a, like a big goal for you guys, a big mission. What was that like for you guys, and how did you get the nonprofit running?
Well, it's so funny. My first mistake. Well, okay. So I left my job, and a year later, a year to the day that I left Google, we launched Coming Up Rosies.
Did you intend it for it to be?
Well, so here's the thing. I started as a business knowing that I just going to donate all the proceeds to provide art supplies to hospitals for children to make, scarves. 2 weeks into launching, actually the day, everyone's like, I want to give money to this. I want to buy your product, I want to give money. And I was like, oh no, I made the first mistake. I should have just done it as a charity up in front. But then I took a shortcut, because starting a charity is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's worth it, but there's a board, there's all these, the first thing I did after 2 weeks of starting as a little online store, was hire a lawyer to help me make it into a charity, because I realized that this was better off being a charity, because we were going to give them money, and people just fell in love with the story and were just emailing us I want to donate, and I was like, oh. So that was mistake number one, which I'm glad we all make mistakes, and it was the best mistake. So, and we didn't like keeping the proceeds to ourselves. So
yeah, totally. And we were honestly just like, I think that it's better to be a charity because we can give back to others.
Yes.
And we're helping the hospitals and children. And Coming Up Rosies is something that I find is very fun for me and my whole family, because it's not just about me and the charity and my journey with alopecia. It's about the whole family. If one person in your family gets alopecia, it's like your whole family gets it.
Correct. Yeah, it's an entire family's journey. Yeah.
I think this was therapeutic for all of us, because like I said, there's no cure for this, for alopecia. So far, maybe in her lifetime.
I asked for one that tasted like chocolate and
like medicine from the FDA.
And it was not an injection.
An injection.
Because I mean,
no. But I think as parents, my husband and I, we felt hopeless, and we wanted to, we found that this was the best medicine for Rosie. It gave her confidence, it gave her drive, it gave her a mission, it gave her purpose. And she loves doing this, and she's doing it organically. So it's well, why not just stand behind her and just take a chance and run with this? Now, I will say, when we started, I had no idea that we would be where we are today. It just has grown.
Yeah. We were expecting it, or Mom was expecting it to be small, just
small,
like a startup,
And it's grown to be a little bigger, which is great. I think we're at a pivotal moment. We need to, figure out how we can even make more children happy and support, the population that we're trying to serve. So it's been a challenge, but it's been a fun challenge. I think I've learned a lot about myself and my capabilities and about the nonprofit world. And Rosie has been an amazing face and driver to everything.
Rosie's a star.
Thank you.
Easy to work with.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's say she's the boss, which is fine because I don't know everything. But
I just like to be the boss of my sister sometimes. Sorry, Caroline.
So to tell us, guys, how many, I know you guys are focusing on the smile kits, right? For the hospitals. How many, and I know you guys have also gotten the community involved in some events, raising support for Coming Up Rosies. Kind of tell us, how many smile kits have you guys distributed? How many children have you guys helped?
We have helped a little more than over 3,000 kids. We've donated over 3,000 smile kits to hospitals worldwide, because
and alopecia foundations,
which is so fun.
So which countries?
We have gone to Australia, Italy, right?
A couple kids, Italy, Ireland. We had a party with Ireland virtually.
Ireland.
We just got back from Canada.
Yeah.
The Canadian alopecia. No, New Zealand.
Oh no, it didn't.
No. And then obviously we're very involved with the North American Alopecia Foundation. So the alopecia community is actually a really special community. It's a very close knit.
And everyone's so friendly.
Which is really nice that there is a place for Rosie to meet other children and for us parents to meet other parents that are kind of facing the same journey and learning from their experiences.
And but I also think that part of having alopecia is sometimes it can be kind of hard. I'm not always this happy. Sometimes I have bad days. I really wish I had hair. And sometimes I'm like, I love being bald. Most of the days I do. But some days I look back and think, would I really look good with hair? Because I try on wigs, I'm like, not my thing. But yeah.
But it's okay if you like wigs.
Yes.
Some people like, a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people.
So tell us about the book that you wrote, Paula, the children's book.
So the book I wrote was by proxy. When Rosie was first diagnosed, I did go to therapy because I wasn't sad about the loss. I just didn't know how to cope with people coming up to us and giving unsolicited advice all the time. So my therapist said, we should probably write down your feelings. And I'm really not journaling. I'm not a big fan. So I kind of wrote down phrases that I could help Rosie to talk about her baldness in front of strangers or to strangers. So it turned into this book. And because one day she saw me being sad and she's like, Mom, it's okay.
My hair went on vacation.
My hair's just on vacation.
This is such a creative way to
exactly. And I was like, you know what? He's right. What am I doing this pity party for myself? So I'm like, that's a great analogy. So every night before bedtime, we would go on a journey with her hair. Sometimes it would go to Italy and Disneyland.
Usually Disneyland.
We went to Disneyland. To California to visit my parents, and so it just kind of became this phrase, and the book just kind of evolved. I put it away after, and it was supposed to be a book. It just was phrases. Put it away after when she was 4. We just didn't really need it. We weren't talking about the hair going on vacation. It just was part of our everyday life of her being bald. I even forgot what she looked like with hair. And it wasn't until fast forward to 2019, we were on a road trip. My husband said, that book you wrote? We're always thinking of fundraising ideas for the charity. He's like, that book you wrote for Rosie that when she was first diagnosed? And I said, oh my gosh, yeah, I think it's whatever. So I pulled up my laptop and I searched my Google Drive and up popped this book. And I was like, he's like, you should publish that. And the proceeds can go to the families, but it can go back to charity. So I did it. I somehow, so like I said, I never thought I'd be a children's book author, and I never thought I'd have a charity, and it just, life is kind of throws you curveballs, and I'm just kind of taking the most of each moment. So,
and you guys have used that moment into an opportunity to really make a difference. I mean, the book, the smile kits, everything really, it all comes down to really sending the message out to people
Yes.
and allowing people to really live and celebrate their real selves, and just
is.
spread that positivity. So Rosie, if you had a message to other kids, what would you like to tell them, especially those who are going through alopecia and whose families are with them in that journey? What would you like to tell them?
I want to say that bald is beautiful. Do not drink the haterade. Don't listen to people who are mean to you, and surround yourself with people who love you. Because if you don't, then you might not live the happiest life. And I believe that you should live life to its fullest.
Wow,
So, yeah.
very well said.
Be happy.
Be happy. Yeah.
Happy,
Be
totally,
happy.
yeah.
I
You
think-
are special. Don't worry.
Yeah, and I think being happy for some people is a choice. Like you can, I mean, Rosie, believe me, can choose and could have chosen
To just not be
to
happy.
be down and
Yeah.
negative. There are things that are said all the time, but
A lot.
I think she's chosen just to kind of shield that out and
Yeah,
be
but we're
herself.
looking at the positive side of stuff. We're like, yeah, we're totally. Sometimes we hear some mean stuff,
Yeah,
but we like to block that out and be like, well,
focus on the positives.
hope
Yeah.
you have a good day too.
That's
Yeah.
how we should, I think that's how we should all live our lives. No matter the challenges that you go through,
Yeah.
focus on the positive. So
So,
with that, ladies, I would just like to say that we are so inspired at Just Wish Foundation. When I found you guys on Instagram, I was like, wow, this is a story that touched me and really inspired me, and myself and our founder, Mr. Jack Wu, Just Wish Foundation. We would like to support Coming Up Rosies with the monetary donation, and rest assured we are here for you guys as the foundation continues to grow, as you guys continue to touch more people's lives and continue to make a difference in other children. We salute you guys. We are so inspired by you, and more power. And bald is indeed beautiful, Rosie. You are beautiful.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for finding us and letting us share our story,
Yeah,
and thank you for
yeah.
your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, ladies.
And the
Amazing.
donation, of course.
Thank
Yeah.
you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.